Hi everyone, welcome to our second generic mentor information training for this IT year here at Sussex University. As last time, my name is Branagh and I'm going to be guiding you through the entire year for these specific mentor training events. I'm the lead mentor person for IT at Sussex. So this is the second of a series of videos, basically to make sure that our subject-specific tutors don't have to talk about information for mentors that is generic to everybody. There's no point in everyone spending their time in every single one of our subject sessions going through specific things like the PPPB and how to fill that in, some stuff about trainee development. I can put it all in here, and then that saves our colleagues time in those sessions and saves you time, hopefully, because you can watch this as and when you want to. So you are viewing this hopefully the week of the 16th of November 2020 in readiness for your subject specific event next week, so the week of the 23rd of November when you've got your subject specific session. Now, a little note, always a caveat for these things, this is general, this is generic. It doesn't necessarily cover those of you who are training part-time trainees because they have different deadlines on their course, and it may be slightly different for some salaried trainees. So please do make sure that you have a look at the main handbook and that you're in communication with your subject tutor, because they're the main contact for you, not me. Okay, so what am I going to talk about this evening? I'm going to look at where trainees are at the moment. There's some really useful literature for us out there that you don't need to read, but I read and your tutors read. And I'm just going to summarise it in just some really simple diagrams so that we can get our heads around it without any thinking whatsoever, and that we can apply them to our trainee a little more easily. So we're going to have a little bit of time on that. Having a think about where should they be. Now, obviously, with any group of trainees, there's a kind of mid-ground, and then there's the trainees that are struggling a little bit for whatever reason. Sometimes people just need a little bit longer to get ready, particularly at the moment. And then there's our trainees that almost were like born to teach, and they tend to need minimal guidance. They just need stretching, just like our whiz-bang kids, really. They just need that extra challenge. And they'll be showing themselves at the moment as the ones that are really organised and are able, very keen to get going. So we'll have a chat about that. We'll have a talk about how to move them forward. The entire role of a mentor is to move the trainees from where they are to the next stage of their development. Induction is done. You've got them beautifully settled into school. We've had very little issues with people settling into school, so massive thank you for that. But the next bit is, where do we take them from now? And observation and feedback in our mentor meetings is one of the main ways that we do that. So I'll focus on that in the third part. And then the fourth part is obviously to do with the PPPB form, which is due in December. Okay, now, slightly different thank you picture this time. He looks just like my dog. So we are so thankful for the work that you're doing, incredibly thankful that you offered a placement, that you've continued with the placement. We've got mentors who are having to isolate, we've got schools that are having to temporarily close, and yet you're still there behind your trainee, keeping them going. So thank you so very much. In the last presentation I talked about them being very nervous. They're a lot less nervous. So you've done a brilliant job at getting them settled into school and acclimatised really well to what's going on in school. So thank you. On top of your crazy workload, that's a big deal. Really, really thank you for that. We've got less unknowns in September. We had unlimited unknowns. We haven't got that many now. We've still got what might happen in the next few days in school if somebody gets COVID, but we know that schools are staying open as much as possible, and a lot of us have gotten a bit more of a groove of how this works, so that's good. It's still not normal out there. Of course it's not. I don't know how many times I can say thank you, but I don't think ever enough, actually, for what you're doing for us. So please do keep going with this in placement too. We really do need you, and the trainees need you, and we will need our trainees to fill the vacancies in school. So let's keep on plugging. So where's your trainee at the moment? So let's have a look at the stages. Now, I thought what I'd just bring up first of all is looking at the year, looking at the calendar for the year. And I'm just going to bring up my red pen that I've already circled. Now, you're watching this video in this week here, right? So that says the 16th of November. You're watching this there. You've got your subject-specific mentor training where I'm putting those red blobs. Now that, get a black. SP there means support plan. Now, we need to be mindful when we're looking at the stages of where your trainee is at the moment, is this is kind of within normal parameters? Are we within, they're a bit flaky, they're not quite so organised, but that's still quite normal for now. They still haven't found their feet. Or are we like, this is really like subnormal, this is not okay, my message isn't getting across, I think I need to give a support plan. Because you've been with him now for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks. You've got a good inkling, you know what you're doing. So if you're mindful of a support plan, get in touch with your tutor. Don't leave it. Do not leave it. Don't sit on it and think, it'll just get better. It won't. Or it might. But it might get better quicker with a support plan. So the deadline for that is next Wednesday, the 25th of November. So get that support plan in, or emails to your tutor well in advance of that. Now, if they're not on a support plan, then we're looking at just normal stages of a trainee development. We're still very early days. We're still working towards our 8 hours equivalent of teaching per week. Some of them, I suppose, right now are on 2 or 3 even, and we need to start building them up to 8. And if you don't think they'll cope moving to 8, doesn't mean they're support plan worthy, but it does mean that we need to be in communication with the tutors, okay? And then obviously we're looking to the rest of placement 2, where we'll move towards them being much more independent. So let's have a look at what that looks like. Now, I've got 3 diagrams. It's the first one, but I'm going to show it you in this slide anyway. I'll get my pen. Now, let's look at where we are. It's November. Now, based on this model, which you'll see in loads of different teacher training websites if you go to every single university, it's based on some researchers Furlong and Maynard, basically, and then it's been taken and used by lots of other researchers. Now, when your trainees came in, I'll just undo that one because I don't want to talk about disillusionment yet. Yeah, when your trainees came in, full of excitement, kind of nervous, then they just sort of started teaching and they're like, oh God, okay, I can stand up and not fall over. I can crack on with what I've got to do. I can plan a starter. Oh, isn't this exciting? Now, at this time of year, some of them, not all of them, but all of them to some degree, go through this period of disillusionment where, having spoken to a trainee the other day, I had to ask him, is this what you thought it would be? And he's like, no, I thought it would be much easier, bless him. So disillusionment, it was always going to be difficult, but they never believe it's quite as hard as it actually is. And doing it in the current circumstances, I think there's a lot of goodwill in them, but still a lot of, oh, I can't believe it's as hard as it is. So this is where they are, bless them. They are dealing with disillusionment. Now, our job and their own job, they've got to fight their way out of this disillusionment paper bag. It's not just going to happen for them. Our job is to help move them forward. Now, I really like this particular model where currently a lot of trainees are incompetent. Now, we might have a problem with them, shading in the bits I want us to focus on, if they don't know that they're incompetent. They're unconsciously incompetent. So they do something and they're like, I don't know if it was good or bad. And you're like, oh dear, I think you should be able to say that really wasn't very good. They actually find it much harder to say what's good. We hope that they'll be able to notice what isn't so good. And then we're along the right lines. Then we're moving them towards being conscious. Now, some of your trainees, I use my red pen, are still very much in this novice phase where they don't know what they're doing. They don't know if it's good or bad. They are going through the motions, teaching in a bit of a vacuum, and it's not going so well for them. So we've got to move them on to this conscious that they're not doing it well, and then eventually end of placement, maybe we consciously know what we're doing. I'm very aware of time, so I'm going to have to zip on a bit more. Now, for you, what this means, we look at this other model that Furlong and Maynard have given us that brings it all together, is looking at the stages of trainee development. So does your trainee know what they're doing, basically? Are they able to notice that there's a problem, or are we still rabbit in the headlight? And that's what will help you to fill in your PPPB. So do have a good look at this when you finish watching the video and try and think of, where is your trainee? Are we still very much telling them what to do, or are they doing it on their own? Okay, so are you having to tell them the behaviour management routines all the time, or are they able just to get on, crack on and do it? Okay. Now, we talked about this, support plan or not. Is it nerves or is it we're not quite getting it? Now, one of the main reasons that you might put them on a support plan is an inability, or even worse, lack of willingness to follow your targets. They've got to do what you tell them to do. You tell them to get a lesson plan in 24 hours in advance. They do it, right? If they're not able to, we've got a problem and we need to unpick what that problem is. And a support plan isn't a punishment. It's to support. It's to help them through it. So don't hold back on using a support plan if you really think they could do with a bit of help or a bit of a shove. Okay, so I put on there if they're disorganised, that can be a reason. Lack of professionalism, don't even think about it. Get that support plan done, right? Get in touch with the tutor straight away if we think they're arriving late, you know, leaving too soon, you know, absent, if you know what I mean. So just get it in straight away, because that's not okay. We can't work with that at all. Okay, so it's due by the 25th of November. So where could your trainee be and how to move them forward, right? So we're seeing where they are. Where could they be? Let's see where they could be. Now, you should still be co-planning. If you don't co-plan with them, we're not modelling what lesson planning looks like. Now, we can go so far at uni. We show them the forms, we guide them in lesson planning every single Friday. We're weaving in pedagogic techniques. But actually structuring a plan for your kids is really very much to do with the mentor and the trainee. It's not really something we can support them with. So co-planning with them, absolutely essential until they can do it on their own and all you're doing is just checking. The other way we move them on is observing with full attention. So we're very much present when we're observing them. We write fluently, we write in depth. And I've got some examples for you in a minute from tutors to show you what the kind of detail that we're looking for, okay? Now, we don't just want you to say, oh, that's a problem, off you pop. What we do want is, that's a problem. Okay, I can see where the problem is. Try this, try that, give them suggestions. That's really what they need right now. Very much in novice. They don't know anything. They don't even know what to ask quite often. So you've got to steer them. And that's where the ideas and tactics comes in. They need you to tell them what to do. Not the ideas for the lessons necessarily. We want them to use their imagination. We want them to come up with it themselves. But if they're struggling, we do need a bit of a nudge. The other way we move them forward is to observe them with really clear focus. Now, some of the mentor meeting obviously needs to be, how did the lesson go? What are we going to do next week? But let's make it more developmental than procedural. And at the moment, I know that's quite difficult because they haven't got to their 8 hours yet, and you're very much still scaffolding them, going, let's try that year 8 next week, let's try the year 9 the week after. And the mentor meeting is the appropriate place to do that. But do make sure that we're looking at trends in their lessons, trends in their planning, and bring those together in the mentor meeting to go, right, we're going to have a section in our mentor meeting about behaviour management in general, not just about that year 8 class. So look at themes that are emerging as well as the nitty-gritty procedural stuff. Okay, let's crack on to observations. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this. So, as we said in the first generic mentor training session, your feedback's never been more important. We never know when you might need to isolate, God forbid, when they might need to isolate and not be able to be in. We don't know what's going on. The school might need to close, a bubble might have to go home. So every single lesson observation matters. And you might even think about doing more than one at the moment, just to cover a few more of the standards each week and help them gather some evidence. Okay, specific and focused is what we're looking for so that we're not wasting our time. If you observe a lesson and it's all a bit woolly in the feedback, no one's gaining anything. We have to make our lesson observations matter. Okay, so let's have a look at some examples. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them. They're for you to go and have a look at another time, because I've got, I think it's like 4 slides of strengths and 4 slides of targets. Now, these are taken from real tutor visits, so when the tutors went in and they observed a trainee, and we tend to write an awful lot, okay, when we go in. We're not expecting you to write as much as we do, because you've got other things going on, obviously, and this is one of our focuses for the year. But picking out some of the language might be really useful, but particularly for those of you watching us that are new mentors. So if you look at the ones that I've highlighted in pink, Here's one that's it's a drama one for standard 7, and you've established good routines, because it's really important to let them know not just where to fix things, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You're doing that well, you crack on, keep it like that. They do need those two things. So what to keep, don't confuse them, right? That's great, leave it like that. We've got to fix this bit, yeah? So that they don't think they've got to fix everything about a lesson. So they used praise, really important to remind them to use praise in a timely, immediate, passion for their subject. Lovely to see that on there for standard 3. Okay, in this one, well played with a range of activities and resources. Good. We're telling them that their pedagogy is working. We've got loads of different things going on, and they've gone into detail. They've got a video, they've got a scaffolded grid, they've got something to do with speech. This is an English lesson. Lesson adapted according to technological difficulties. Don't really know what that means, but I guess something when they didn't have stuff that they needed. So nice and specific going on there. Here's another one. Effective use of lesson time. So we know the pacing was good, yeah? Smooth transitions between sections of the lessons. That can only happen if it's well planned. The resources were good. They know that whatever they're making and the time they're giving to do it is working okay. They don't need to put in more time. Their questioning was good. Again, let's reassure them that bit's good. Leave that as it is. Let's work on something else, okay? Class is being challenged. The pace of the lesson is good, okay? So they're not just one-liners. We're expanding. We didn't just write pace was good. We're expanding on the bits of the lesson that have been successful, okay? Now, go ahead and look at those in your own time. This one's about being inclusive, so that we can telling them that you're covering all the different kids that you need to. Let's then have a look at some examples of some targets. Now, this is quite often much more challenging, and the bit that's really important are the suggestions, okay? Not just what went wrong, how do you fix it, okay? So setting a lead learner. When you've got timings, you can then tell the pupils how long they've got. Be sure they're all doing the same thing that you asked them to do. So they're really specific, these targets that tutors are giving here. Wait time, use it more effectively. Use think, pair, share. That builds in the wait time. Allow yourself more time in lessons to engage in Q&A, because you were doing too much lecture mode within your lessons, okay? And it goes on and on there. I've got 2 more examples for you to have a look at. This one's particularly brilliant though. I'm just going to highlight this one. They've mentioned eye contact. They've mentioned go and observe specific teachers, practice in an empty classroom. Marvellous stuff going on. And the more you get in your lesson observation, the less you've got to do in your mentor meeting, because it's already covered. A little bit there on mentor meetings. It's tricky right now to be developmental. I've picked 2 that I think are working towards being developmental, where they're talking about doing midterm planning, what's happening in January, talking about vocabulary. Some good examples there. Right, now, got 10 minutes to go. So, filling in the PPPB. So, the form is on the website. There's the click to the website. Something that will really help you are these prompts that we've got on there. They're right at the top of the PPPB forms, and it's called Secondary Professional Tracker Criteria and Prompts. So have a look at those before your trainee starts to fill in the PPPB. All right, it's really important that we know where the criteria are, okay? Now, the trainees sometimes overgrade themselves and sometimes undergrade themselves, so you need to have a good working knowledge of the grid. No one's going to be good for PPPB. We don't even put it on the form, okay? And it's the language that matters. So are they only aware, which is very much novice, okay? I can just about see what's going on, but I can't do it. Or are they able to put things into practice, in which case we're in the met bit here. Okay, apologies for the really scruffy drawing going on there, okay? So look at those prompts. The form looks almost the same as PPPA with a few differences. So the front page, we've taken off, there's no bit that says, do you want to have a chat with us? Because we've got the support plan thing in place, it's pass, fail. But you can't fail them unless you've put a support plan in and there's stacks of evidence. Very unlikely for PPPB that somebody would be failing anyway. But just so you're aware, you can't just whack a fail on there, send it off, trainee fails. Doesn't work like that. We've got to go through the procedure of the support plan and then a cause for concern. So that's why it looks the way it does, like that. Now, trainee completes section A just like they did with the PPPPA. Sorry for all the acronyms. Now, they fill this in their tracker document and it automatically uploads into here. You do need to read this before you fill in your part, because you might not agree with it. You might think that they're not selling themselves enough. You might be able to help them with some evidence, because it does have to be evidence-based. They can't just write, I've taught some lessons. They've got to say which ones match the particular standards. They have to marry the standard with that particular bit of evidence. And that's something that tutors will be working with them on this term in particular. So you make sure you read that before you fill in your bit. Now, when it comes to your bit, you will look at their evidence, think, are we working towards? Are we met? Okay? Or are we very much still, I don't know, gasping for air and we're almost sub-novice? You know, we really haven't got a clue what's going on and we're not trying very hard either. So if you don't think there's enough evidence that they've started moving towards these standards, then we click that insufficient evidence. But that would highlight to us, I'm going to be honest, that there's a real problem there. So please be mindful with that particular column. We're looking at somebody that really needs a support plan. If they have insufficient achievement with any of these standards so far, an alarm bell is going to go off for us. Okay, so we're going to want a support plan if you fill in those bits. Okay, most of them are going to be impartially achieved. It's November and they started a week later. Okay, we're going to be impartially achieved. A few will be in met. Okay, it might be some of them have got phenomenal subject knowledge and like, well, you subject knowledge can't really get any better, so you know it's already met. Okay, this is the bit that you fill in. You write your formative feedback, and then we've got 3 strengths and 3 areas to development. And I've got some examples here for you. Now, some of these are from a bit weird, a cohort in Cyprus. Where we did quite a lot of work with mentor training in Cyprus. It's like a pilot project. And the mentors came back and wrote some phenomenal stuff in the PPPB. And here's an example from a history mentor who was struggling a little bit. No, the mentor wasn't struggling. None of them were struggling, actually. That's really bad language to use. But the history trainee was a little reluctant to get on board with the PGC that they were doing. He was working full time. It was a salaried position, working full time. And there was this real sort of difference with amazing subject knowledge, awesome lessons, but it wasn't really inclusive enough and he wasn't getting involved in school enough. And the targets are bang on. She doesn't beat around the bush. She just says it how it is. She's saying what he's doing really well. He's grand. He's a brilliant teacher. He's going to be amazing. By the end of the year, I'm going to be honest, he was amazing. But we've got to think about those kids that don't get it naturally. There were some SEN kids, EAL kids, that were being left behind with the sheer level of subject knowledge that was going on in the lesson. And then we wanted him to get more involved in school. Yeah, he wasn't holding up that end. But then he did, because the targets were so clear, you can't argue with them. And he fixed it much quicker than if the mentor had danced around the edges. She didn't dance, she did it. Yeah, she said how it was. And honestly, you want to get them, if you want them to act on your targets quickly and move forward, just say it how it is, the positives and the targets. Here's another example where great work being done here by an art mentor, saying what's going well, and then we've got some really good suggestions there of how to get better. And it's implemented again there into written less, just as pointed. It's great. Now, here's one from a science mentor where it's lovely, it's really, really positive, but we could do with the other side. Yeah, nobody's perfect. There's always something that people need to work on, and we give our trainees a false sense of security and knowledge if this is how we talk to them. They know they're not perfect. They're very aware that things aren't perfect because they see you teach and know that theirs doesn't look like that. So don't be so... It's almost false kindness. We do need to tell them what they need to work on. They need it. They're hungry for it. But in the actual targets there, we did get some clear targets, we did. And they were really going to help, okay? Now, at this stage, assessment and feedback isn't necessarily something we're going to be too worried about. It's very early for that, okay? So do be clear, do say what you want to say, don't beat about the bush, be kind. We always must be kind and be positive. That's why the strengths come first, but we want to say it how it is. Then it goes to your professional tutor, just like last time. They sign it off and send it to the magic email address, ite@sussex.ac.uk. Please do make sure it goes to that email address. Now, this has been a lightning tour of talking about targets, getting those observations as dense as possible. Let's really make the most focused observations, make the mentor meetings more developmental, and let's really be honest in our PPPB feedback, because that's what everybody needs right now, okay? And if you've got any queries about that, do talk to your tutors about any queries that you've got about that and bring it up in your subject-specific meetings. Talking of which, what's coming up next? Now, our next session, so you've got your subject-specific meetings next week, so the week of the 23rd of November. The invites have already been sent out by Claire Stevens. I hope your tutors have also sent out invites in a personal email. If there's any problems, please get in touch with the tutor. Don't get in touch with me, because it's them that have set up the Zooms. Oops, sorry about that. We've got new mentor training in January, 27th of January. I'll be in touch about that just after Christmas. I'll follow that with a live Q&A this time though, so new mentors, you can chime in and come and chat to me. We might have common problems and we'll talk about them. And then there's another one of these generic sessions going on at the beginning of February, ready for the PPPC, okay? And that's where we'll be looking at that final shove, getting the trainees to be the best they can. I've popped the Zoom invites for you on there and the emails of your tutor so you can talk to them. And then just a little reminder about where all the key information is for mentors this year. There's our partner website where the forms are. This video will be on the mentoring site, and we'll leave the old ones up there too. Claire Stevens is our partnership guru. She's the lady to talk to about payments, and she's sending out the claim forms at the end of November once all the meetings are done. And then Super Boss Lady Claire Stenning is our partnership lead. So I'm mentoring lead and she's the partnership lead. So if any professional tutors are watching this, that's the person that you talk to. Quick reminder about the handbook. That's the main ITE handbook. Those of you part-time school direct salaried, please make sure you focus on that. And remember, any queries about observations, about how to scaffold things as a mentor, you should find in the guidebook, okay? Again, that's on the website. Now, that's the end of my half an hour that I'm allocated. I'm sorry it's so quick, but I bet you're glad it's not longer, if I'm honest. So thanks again. Thank you so much again for being the main part of our team. We can't do this without you. Trainees can't train to be teachers without their wonderful mentors. They have been celebrating you. They've been full of stories on a Friday about how wonderful things are going in school. Certainly from my perspective in science, they're a gift, these trainees. They have been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. They are a joy to be around. So I hope that you're finding your trainees a joy, and I hope you enjoy your subject specific mentor session next week. I hope it goes really well. All the best everybody, and stay safe and stay warm in this really dank weather, but all the best, and I will see you very, very soon. Take care.